First and foremost, we talked about in the last segment about how it's nice that Starfield follows the standard Bethesda format. So there's that sense of familiarity going into the game. So a gripe that I have about this game is that it follows the basic Bethesda formula and that nothing has changed. That's
same as it ever was.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. You know, like there are some changes to elements of the game. Like we were talking about lock picking and how that's all. It's a whole new thing compared to what it's been for the past several games that Bethesda's put out. Pretty much all their games since 2008. But I don't know. Like they didn't really step outside of their comfort zone. If that makes sense. It's almost too familiar.
And is that because this is their first original IP, and they're like, we don't want to go. They were like, we don't want to go too far out and do too much risk.
That could be it. Nicole, do you agree?
Yeah. So one thing, and I think this is kind of a good place to bring this up. One thing that I've noticed, and I'm about 30 hours in, is that I feel like there's a lack of world building, and I feel like there's a lack of this game's own lore to reference, which I find is it's an issue for me. I kind of feel like I'm struggling to be invested. There are, when you go into a base, once you learn the things that you can loot from, once you learn the things that are particularly valuable and you're looking for those, you get that familiarity with, whatever various office, outpost, whatever you're walking into. But in my opinion, and this is where I'm kind of being tangential, going on a tangent, is that there isn't enough lore. There aren't enough journal entries when I go to an abandoned station where there's just a bunch of bodies that tell me the story about what happened there. I could pick up 20 books about the origin of species. They have a bunch of those little Easter egg type of books lying around in random places. But where are the journal entries that tell me what happened to this station other than space pirates?
Yeah.
Because didn't Skyrim have like 1,000 tomes or something like that?
Yes.
A ton of different tomes. There's nothing like that. So, and I'm only 30 hours in, something can change. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's a lack of that kind of world building where it's so exciting to go to a new planet and check stuff out. Oh, it's just another abandoned outpost that got hit by pirates.
Yeah.
Where is the story of the people who lived there? That it feels kind of hollow, which is a shame.
But here's a copy of Moby Dick. So there's that.
I have 80 different copies of Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Give me one copy about what the heck happened on this outpost where it's just bodies.
One journal entry.
Yeah.
One journal entry. I'll take a weird snide email from one colleague to the next. Anything. Oh my God.
But they do
give me anything.
So they do have the computer terminals set up, and there are now, but I've really only experienced this once, and I think it was part of one of the main storyline. But it was a computer terminal, and it was in the Fallout vein where there is a whole story going on there, and you're piecing it together through every terminal that you come across. But yeah, you are right. It seems like it's few and far between compared to past games. And Mike, yeah, there's like legit Dickens novels everywhere, and they have like the first page from every book like available. So which is yeah, it's different.
It was funny at first, but they're just placed randomly around, and I'm like, there's got to be more, and I feel bad comparing it to Skyrim or to Fallout, where there are already established lores, to draw from. But I feel like there was a lack of substance in the different worlds based off of that. I don't really get much about the people who are living there outside of, hub cities that I've been to. Feels a little barren.
There's a severe lack of the lusty Argonian maid.
a severe lack of lusty Orgonian maids. And I think that's what I'm missing. I think if they just gave me one,
Yeah.
I would be okay. But I haven't found a one.
And I haven't found the Republic of Dave.
Nope.
Oh, yes.
Or the vault, or it'd be the planet of Gary.
Yeah, where's Gary at?
Have you found somebody that's that used to be an adventurer?
No, and that is another grievance that I have with this game. I have a lot of grievances about this game, and you're going to hear all of them. But I don't have a ton of grievances about it. But one of them is I have yet to stumble across the arrow in the knee or another settlement needs our help. Like, I haven't found that yet. Skyrim and Fallout 4 were very quick to have those like
catchphrase almost.
Yeah, right. Like, and then it became memes, but people were quick.
But it was still loved. You know, it was beloved to be like, you know what? Yeah, it's annoying, but I got it.
Right.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
People have tattoos of an arrow in their knee.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
What do we got? What do we got in Starfield?
Nothing yet.
Where's my shark in the elevator?
Where is my shark in the elevator?
Where is? I used to be a space pirate.
Oh,
if they did take that out, I hope someone mods the shark in the elevator because I need that.
They have to. They absolutely.
I need
have
it.
To. I mean, if Heinz said don't take this out, then that's an order from on high.
That's like a clear order.
Yeah, it's literally a feature. It's not a bug. It's a feature.
Right. Speaking of bugs.
Yeah. So, and I do want to circle back to the catchphrase thing in a second, but yeah, with bugs. So I'm hit with this really stupid one, and Nicole, I sent you a picture of it the other night.
What was going on?
So you can get a spacesuit at one point that has a chameleon effect to it. So if you are prone, then you go invisible. Mike, it's think the stealth boy.
Yep.
And the bug is that the chameleon effect doesn't turn off. So you go into third person mode and you're just invisible, but it's the outline and the ripple effect that you would see if you were wearing a stealth boy, and it doesn't go away. Thankfully, if you exit out of the game and go back in, that clears it. But right now it's annoying to the point where, like, the chameleon spacesuit that I have is, I think, the best one that I have, and I'm not wearing it because I don't want to have to worry about having to, like, just be perpetually
So you're
invisible.
basically going to equip it like a stealth boy.
Yeah, but
would you absolutely need to?
Right, but it's cosmetic only. Like, people can still see me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, like, if you're actually prone, then okay, then that bumps up your stealth level. No one can see you. But if you have the bug and you're just constantly, like, invisible, you're not actually invisible. Everyone can still see you, and you're out in the open. So
you just can't see you.
Right. I feel like it's
a reverse stealth.
Yeah.
Nicole, I don't know if you remember this, but there's a Rugrats episode that was like a parody of, like,
the Vanishing Cream.
It wasn't that one. They were all like superheroes, and Lil was dotted line girl, and she goes at one point, "How could you see me? I'm just a dotted line." Do you remember that?
I think I actually might remember that one too. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Vanishing Cream one, because, like, that one immediately came to mind. The blue cream.
Oh my God, that one just terrified me as a kid. You want to talk about things that just randomly scare you? I mean, that one was just weird.
It was pretty scary. Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone on Instagram about how Rugrats gave us a fear of vomit because there was a lot of it.
Yeah. And I
don't know what kind of family you're from, Dee, but in my family, we wore clothes. Except, of course, for Great Aunt Lois, but that's another story.
But yeah, anyway, I think that dotted line quote wearing the camouflage chameleon spacesuit when then the chameleon effect does not turn off, because I'm walking around thinking I'm invisible. I'm not actually invisible.
Trying to steal stuff.
Get back here. You can't see me.
The only
What are
time
you doing?
the only time I've stolen something so far was at Chunks. And that
Did you steal chunks?
I stole a chunk by mistake, and that poor chunk jockey got mad at me.
Oh, he saw it?
Yeah.
Oh no, he makes minimum wage.
And he's like trying to recite the company motto or whatever, and he can't remember it, and he just doesn't want to be there. But if you steal a
Have
chunk,
a chunky day, sir.
Yeah.
oh, that
Exactly.
dude gets pissed. Oh, he got mad at me when I accidentally took a chunk. So
And he doesn't get paid enough to get mad.
no, he only makes 40,000 credits an hour, which it equates to, I think that's $6 USD.
Right? He doesn't make enough. Speaking of bugs, though, have you got this? Have you had this happen? I've had it happen multiple times in multiple different game sessions where when I'm loading into a new area, whether I'm going into a building, I'm going into my ship, I'm docked and going to another ship, when I'm loading in, the screen is just completely black, except for my little map marker. And I have to tab into my, inventory screen and tab back out. And then everything loads.
No.
It's happened like 5 or 6 times now where, I go into a new screen. Oh, all black.
No, I wonder if that's just like a graphics card related
Maybe.
curiosity.
Hopefully it's not my graphics card because I sound really silly. But man, that has been driving me insane.
Because I
hate it.
I've had similar experiences with playing Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas on PC in the past, and it wasn't narrowed down to my graphics card. I've had things like that occur. Hasn't happened on the console version. So
yeah, I should look it up. I don't know if that's just something specific to my experience or if anyone else is experiencing that issue, but it was driving me up a wall. It happened like 4 times when I was playing last night. It's like, what is going on here?
it's also worth mentioning too. Besides maybe a day 1 patch, we haven't received any patches yet for the game. So
yeah, which is why? Because they wanted to reduce the bugs, right?
Yep.
So like our day 1 patch is our day negative 7 day patch.
Yep.
They're like, all right, here's our final patch. Then we can release it, and then we're good. Because that's the regular right now. Day 1 patch.
yeah, usually day 1 patch, it encompasses things that they want to fix, but they had already gone gold at that point. So they already had their code freeze, and then now there's the things that they know that are super critical that they're going to sneak in. But it's also the patch that effectively unlocks the game if you've pre-ordered it. So, and it's also telling too, the day 1 patch should not be big. Because history has taught us that if the day 1 patch is massive, then that means the game sucks.
Mm-hmm. And there are major issues that they're still working on fixing.
Or it's the whole game. If you remember when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 came out, I made like 2015, I think it was. And that game, the day 1 patch was the game. If you bought if you bought the disc and you didn't install the day 1 patch, all you could do was the tutorial, because that's all there was. They had to finish.
Wow,
they had
that's so bad.
It was terrible, and the game it's on like the list of worst games ever made, and just the day 1 patch.
They bury it in the desert with ET.
They should. They absolutely should. And then
I can't believe that was a solution.
To bury it in a landfill?
To just bury it. Like,
I
mean, I guess you got to get rid of it, but that's just so weird.
Do you remember when we all thought that was an urban legend, and then the landfill was unearthed a few years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And it was real. It wasn't a legend. It was real.
There they were. All those crushed copies of E.T. for the Atari 2600 that no one wanted to buy. Although there were a lot of other games in there too that nobody wanted to buy that were all equally terrible. But another really annoying bug, and you mentioned it earlier, Nicole, is the screen looking washed out.
Yeah.
And that
it's like there's like filter over it.
Oh, I hope they get rid of that. Mike, you would be foaming at the mouth. It's so bad. It drives you nuts.
I said before, I'm not good at detecting like graphical or visual issues. Once I saw a side-by-side comparison of what the vanilla game looks like versus this mod, and it's called like LUD or something like that, where it pretty much just like clarifies everything. For some reason, there's just like this grainy almost filter on the game by default.
Yeah.
And the colors look washed out, like it just looks odd.
Yeah, I'm actually watching
neutral LUTs, no color filter.
I'm watching.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm watching this right now, and it reminds me of the other night. I got off an elevator, and I'm in New Atlantis at one of the tram stations, and the filter hadn't yet kicked in. So for like 2 seconds, everything
You saw what it should look like.
Everything looked wonderful, and I'm like, no, stay, don't go away, no.
Like what was that choice? Like what?
I hope it wasn't.
What was that choice?
I hope it wasn't like a performance thing where they're like, if this filter is not implemented, then the game runs like shit, like an anti-aliasing type thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, but I thought when I first loaded into the game, we'll call it a false start. I load into the game, I'm doing like the opening scene, and I hadn't yet saved. But I'm going nuts because I thought there was something wrong with my TV. I thought I had a setting on my Xbox that for the display that I needed to adjust, and I had to quit out of the game because I'm thinking like there's something wrong here, and then I realized no, it's the game that doesn't look good.
That's what the game looks like.
Yes, I don't like it.
Which is so sad for a game about like space. You know, when I think about space, I mean, yeah, you know, big black void, but like I think about the colorful stars and the solar systems. Like I want vivid, rich colors, not this weird, washed out, grainy.
Yeah.
So someone made a comment on this one. It says the original, like the way it is you're looking at like it's a movie. You put neutral LUT on, it looks more like a video game. Is what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't want to look
that
like
was
a movie.
a choice.
So I think that was a choice. I think that was an intentional choice to make it seem more like movie-esque, I believe.
We need to be able to turn that off. I don't like it.
Yeah, that should be an option you can toggle.
Especially since, like, look at Constellation's logo, for example, right? There's that element of, like, you know, 1970s, 1980s NASA era where, like, the retro rainbow colors, the Caldor rainbow, if you will, Mike, which I love that aesthetic. And it's colorful. It makes no sense if you have a filter over it that washes it out and dilutes it. It doesn't. I don't know why you do that.
Looking at stars and galaxies, why don't you want them to look vivid? And I don't know, maybe that's just my gamer brain, but
Right.
That's interesting that you found that comment, Mike. Because yeah, now that you say that, I can totally see that, but I just don't know why they made that choice. It seems like it's the wrong choice for a video game, especially.
And I agree, there should be a switch.
Just like a simple check, you know,
Mhm.
do I want this version or this version?
The fact that you have a planet called Neon and you have this filter in the game, it doesn't
make sense.
Yeah, exactly. So
like, oh gosh, I can't imagine what Neon looks like with this thing. I'm going to call it a filter with the filter on, because like Neon City I love it. The vivid neon colors, the colors reflecting off of the puddles on the ground. Like I love that aesthetic.
Yeah.
Why wash it out?
You were talking about the Outer Worlds earlier. I don't know if you knew this. The guy who is the creator of the game is colorblind. And that's why the colors in that game all look weird, because it was designed
He's off his own color palette.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was designed.
I liked that though.
I did too. It was
liked
unique
it because it made
was,
it feel alien.
Yeah, it was different. And
but here's the question: if it made it feel alien for you, the people that are also colorblind, did it make them feel more at home?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I mean,
All right, we got to get Warren on here.
accessibility. Oh my God. I remember Warren came over. I'll talk about accessibility in a second, but I remember Warren, before he moved to California, came over to our apartment, Nicole, and it was like a farewell podcast with Warren. And I remember you were in your bedroom, and I brought Warren over and introduced him to you. And I remember going, this is Warren. He can't see the color purple. And Nicole, you just go, oh, it's a good movie.
I stand by what I said. You should see the movie.
I think on principle alone, because he's colorblind, he's not going to see it. He's going to have no idea what the hell's going on.
It's like, I don't understand this plot. That problem doesn't exist.
But yeah, there's a lot of games now are really pushing their accessibility options. I remember The Last of Us Part 2 being lauded for its accessibility options. I've actually heard the opposite about Starfield, that it's considered a step backwards for games with like those features. But Outer Worlds is just straight up just like, we're just gonna like fuck up all the colors, so
just go for it.
Yeah, so everyone can be included. Now that you
mentioned that, I haven't delved too far in like the options because I'm not specifically looking for accessibility options. But off the top of my head,
it's okay.
I can't think of
you can say it. You're not
where
disabled.
I would see it.
Yeah, it'd be the options. You know? The options in there are scant. There's not a lot of them.
Yeah, and I did go through some options. When we were trying to figure out the performance issue, and just realized, well, I'm only going to get 30 frames, and I don't recall seeing. Is there like a colorblind mode? Are there those options? Because I don't recall seeing those.
I don't think there are. I honestly don't think there are. Or if there are, then there aren't many of them.
There's the standard, show the dialogue, in text. That's pretty standard for games nowadays. So it would be weird to not have that option, I think.
It was on by default for me too, because it including
mine was on by default, yeah.
Including,
which I prefer. I always turn it on.
Well, just all the like the NPC chatter when like you're walking around New Atlantis, for example, all of that shows up, and that usually isn't on by default. So that was nice, because then I actually stop and I listen, because then I can actually like read what they're saying. I know you can turn it on with like Skyrim and Fallout, but it just for some reason, just because it was already on by default, I was more compelled to actually pay attention to what people were talking about.
Yeah, and to kind of go back on what I was saying earlier about the the lack of the world building, I do feel like in the hubs, in the cities, you do get that world building through just by being near people and hearing them speak. Oh, this character is like this. Oh, this character is with their children at the playground, or this person is talking to their significant other. I thought that was really interesting. So, they do have a bit of that in the hubs with the characters.
It's just not spread out outside of the hubs as much as you'd like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So far.
Well,
so far.
It's only been 2 weeks, and modders be modding, right?
Yep.
Modders be modding, and I'm only 30 hours in. I try to do as much as I can.
Which is hilarious to say. I'm only 30 hours in.
Right. Right.
I've barely scratched
I've barely scratched the surface. I don't know what this game's about.
Yeah.
Now
that's what I love about this, though. Yeah, you're like, I'm only 30 hours in, which could also be a negative thing. You're like, dude, I'm only 30 hours in. I can't even get into this. Like, so.
Yeah.
Some people may complain about that. You're like, hey, I can't even get deep in, and it's already 30 hours. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I personally am like, hey, if I'm going to buy a game, I'm going to buy this game. I'm going to deep dive. I don't know how many hundreds of hours I have in Skyrim, Fallout, and other various games.
Yeah, and this is the first, Mike, for you, this is the first big release since you have kids now too. So it's really allocating your time appropriately.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, and that's the kind of the question when I brought up the, do you go and get that super, extra good spacesuit early on in the game? Like, that's something I got to consider. Is it playability? Maybe I don't, but like, hey, if that saves me like a couple hours of like bullshitting around.
Yeah.
And maybe I got to
Might be
consider
worth
that
it.
one, worth it.
I am terrible about taking time off from work, so was pretty much told, hey, you got to take some time off. So I scheduled it around Starfield when it came out.
Oh,
And-
nice.
I believe I did schedule 2 days off for Fallout 4.
I remember that.
And Sarah
I
didn't
took a week
believe
off.
me at the time. And she goes, I'm like, yeah, don't talk to me for 8 hours.
I took a day out of
paid.
work.
Yeah.
I took a day out of work for Sonic Mania in 2017 because that was like, that one was really important to me, and that was time well spent. Starfield, yeah, I'd say that the couple days I took out of work, my long weekend, I played like a good amount of Starfield. But then when I look at it, I'm like, I didn't put a lot of time into it. I don't even think I've hit 10 hours yet. I feel like if I have, then I've just barely cracked it. But, and Nicole, have you been playing since its release day, or did you have the early access?
Just since the release day. So
Okay.
it's only been about a week.
Okay.
But it's interesting because the first time I picked up Skyrim, for example, and I hate to, compare this to the other ones, but I'm going to compare, Starfield to the other games. When I picked up Skyrim, I completely lost a weekend of my life. Like I didn't even realize it. I was just in Skyrim that entire weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm not having that so much with Starfield. I'll pick it up. I'll play for a few hours. I can get a good 5-6 hour session in, no problem. I did not lose a weekend to Starfield. And
which may be a good thing for me as I can't afford to get lost for a day.
that's fair. That's fair.
Do you think it's just we're older and it has something to do with attention spans?
It could be part of that. I don't want to admit it. So I'm not going to admit it because I'm on the record and this is being recorded. No, it's not because I'm old. It's the game's fault.
These damn kids these days.
Well,
Damn kids, get off my lawn. That is charred and dry.
it also goes back to, the Bethesda formula not really being changed too much since, back to the Morrowind days. But like when I discovered Fallout 3, what you just said, Nicole, that was my life. I remember an entire weekend just nonstop playing this game and just real and this was 2 years after it came out. This was like just before New Vegas came out. And I'm like, well, why have I been sleeping on this? This is amazing. And then Skyrim, I was working a retail job that I hated, and I was scheduled to work that day. I didn't go. I forgot to. Because
Skyrim was better.
I started playing Skyrim and it looked at the clock and it was like my shift started at 4 p.m. and it was almost 9. I'm like, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm sure I have at least one missed call.
If I don't see the missed call, did I miss it?
Hey.
Does it exist?
Hey, there you go. So there's optional perks you can take at the beginning of the game, very similar to New Vegas.
Is there a wild wasteland
No.
park equivalent?
No, there's
No.
not. Nothing that is worthy of me
Not
getting
that I noticed.
a tattoo on my chest.
Well, then that is disappointing.
But
It is.
I don't know if you took this one, Nicole, but I did. The Adoring Fan.
No, I didn't get that one.
I took it. Mike, it's this NPC that will, at one point early in the game, will approach you, and he's like crazed stalker superfan guy who's just like inexplicably in love with you because he heard about
stands.
he says he heard about something that you did, which is like one of the first things that you do in the game, and he's like and it's voiced by Codsworth. It's voiced by all of the robots from Fallout. It's that guy's voice.
That's great.
I recognized it instantly. I'm like, I'm glad they used him for this. But
That's awesome.
he's just obsessed with you, and your options are either hire him and have him be part of your crew, so he'll then kind of leave you alone, or risk having him just show up at random points while you're playing the game, kind of like the mysterious stranger, just to rant and rave about how great you are. And like the I guess like the bonus to it, because all those optional perks have their plus and minus, and the plus is that he'll like go out scavenging for you and he'll bring you like resources and credits and stuff. The minus is that he exists.
Right? He's like the kings when you're in Freeside. The second you do anything good, they won't leave you the fuck alone.
Like,
Stop running up to me.
Yeah. Or even just like in Megaton, if you disarm the bomb, and then every time you come into Megaton, someone runs up to you like, we pulled this together for you. It's not much. It's like, yeah, it's not much. It's a thing of cram.
It's nothing.
It adds weight.
I would have preferred my time.
But you can tell they put a lot of effort into it, and it's like, bro.
The one can of cram, thanks.
Bro, it's an empty Nuka-Cola bottle. What am I supposed to do with this? I mean, thank you. I'll cherish it forever.
Yeah, for that, I'm going to actually blow up the bomb now.
Yeah. You pushed me too far.
And so, I mean, you have the adoring fan. You know what we don't have, though? We don't have the Talos preacher. We don't have the Children of Adam crier. We don't have Mama Murphy with her visions, her drug-induced hallucinations. Mama. We don't have any of that yet in Starfield, unless you count the adoring fan.
Are there any good drugs in there?
There are some drugs, and I hope this isn't spoiler territory, but there are in Neon City. There's like one place that can sell a drug. There are standard like drugs like Fallout has, Buff Out, Jet. This game has its own version of this. Will slow down time for so long. This will make your carrying capacity go up. This will increase your persuasion. So it has its own, level of those. But then there is like a narcotic that you can take in this one establishment in Neon City that I haven't taken. I've never touched the drug. Not once.
She's straight edge.
Because she knows she's going to be an addict.
Oh, yeah.
I can't touch it.
Well, you haven't stocked up on the it's not Addictol like in New Vegas, but it's something similar. It's something you can take just to cure all of your addictions at once.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of those in the game too, thank goodness, because I take all the other drugs.
I take all the other drugs.
The legit ones.
So
no, don't worry, they're all legit.
I bought it from a doctor. I have a prescription.
Oh, I'm not a doctor. So
tell them.
This will potentially segue into what I teased earlier about what journalist Alana Pierce is in the news for, in the video game news for, related to Starfield. But I have personally found that the just general space travel, I know it's a new concept here with Bethesda, but I just find it to be tedious. I find it to be boring. I find it to be something I don't look forward to doing.
Yeah.
And this is coming from No Man's Sky. And I like my points of comparison here, No Man's Sky and in the Outer Worlds. Whereas the Outer Worlds, it was literally, you just have a map in front of you with like all the planets and everything, and you just select the planet you want to go to and you go to it. There's nothing fancy. There aren't tons of sub menus you need to navigate. No Man's Sky, you actually have to go and collect the resources just to get your ship to take off, and then you have to have other resources just to be able to initiate a jump so you can go between planets, in between systems. So there's like actual effort there, and none of that really exists in Starfield. It's you take off, and I don't think it uses any resources to take off. They talk about like fuel consumption, but it doesn't sound like you need to actively like refuel. It's just like if you're going to jump between systems, it'll tell you how much fuel it's going to consume, but it doesn't actually then say, well, where do you go to get the fuel to replenish? It just seems to do that.
Yeah, the fuel is only needed to jump between systems. So you can only jump, between 3 systems instead of 5 if you don't have enough fuel to do the full 5. Yeah.
So that I don't want to say like it takes away my immersion. I'm just coming from like No Man's Sky, where that was literally part of the whole practice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care for the way the spaceships, I don't even care really about like this whole aspect of the game. But again, I'm not huge into space, but I did play Outer Worlds and I did play No Man's Sky. And I feel like Starfield is in this weird middle ground between the two,
Yes.
where the space exploration is severely lacking in Starfield. Yeah, you can fly around outside of a planet and have a battle, but it really is just fast traveling to different places. So you don't even have to learn how to take off. You don't even have to learn how to land. Where when I played No Man's Sky, I was losing my mind when we were, actually flying, actually going somewhere.
Mhm.
With this, you're just hanging out outside a planet. Maybe you might find some debris, but it's just another loading screen to then land, which is just a cutscene. So there
Yep.
isn't any actual navigation. It's just cutscenes, or do I want to fast travel if I've already been there?
Right.
I don't really care for it much at all. I don't really enjoy it.
And people have now preface this by saying when you're in space, there's multiple ways that you can use to fast travel and reach your destination. And they all effectively do the same thing. It's just really dependent on which menu you want to use. But one of the methods of travel does trigger cutscenes to occur, like you just mentioned, Nicole. And I actually did see a thing on the Starfield subreddit, which has 11,000 upvotes. And it's from a week ago. It's titled, "Don't use fast travel to teleport from planet to planet." And
Am I playing the game wrong?
well, they said, if you're on a planet, go to your ship, get into the cockpit, press takeoff, and then when in space, select your destination by pressing X on your controller or whatever it is on PC, and allow the cutscene to play and arrive at your destination. Don't teleport or fast travel directly to the landing point. Travel to the planet's orbit first. Likewise with gravity jumps, do it and go through the cutscene. This allows for all the random encounters in space to occur, and honestly, some of the best stuff the writer has experienced in the game has been because of this shift in play style.
Okay. So yeah,
Right.
so if you've already been to a planet, you can, directly go to like one of those cities, like the Lodge is your like home base in and that's very early game, so that's like not spoilery, but you can like automatically go there once you've already been there with the like the fast travel. But even where like I will fly to the planet's orbit and be around outside, again, I'm only 30 hours in and I'm probably missing some things, that this person has experienced. But really, it's just been like random fights, or I'll find a ship somewhere and go, see what they're doing. It may be something cool. It may not be anything cool. But I'll check that post out because I've been kind of underwhelmed with the whole space thing. But then again, I'm not a big space fan anyway. So take it with a grain of salt.
Just don't read any of the comments. I read the first couple and started to see some things that
Spoileries.
Things that would have been cool to like discover on my own, but I'm not mad about it.
Okay.
So just don't read the comments. Read the original post. But
Okay.
Because I've had one encounter come up so far, and it wasn't anything like. I think it triggered a mission for me, but it was doing what this poster said, and then just like a random ship hailed me, and it was a whole discourse, and then I think it ended up at least triggering an activity to follow up on this NPC's tip.
Okay, yeah. I think I've only had like one or two people hail me, and they've just been to warn me like, hey, there's bad guys in the area. I'm like, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I killed them all last time I was here. There's nobody here anymore. So I
same
must
as last
not have
week.
like
Thank you.
hit the right thing.
So with travel, something that you can do in No Man's Sky is when you see a planet, when you see a destination that you want to go to, it will tell you exactly how long it will take to reach that planet, that destination. And then if you initiate a warp or a jump, whatever they call it in that game, it will drastically reduced to mere seconds to minutes. But it is entirely possible if it says this planet is 7 hours away. If you want to spend 7 hours just traveling through space and reach that planet, you can, and it is possible to do. The game just does give you the option, if you have the resources, which are incredibly easy to obtain to do it, to initiate a jump and cut down that time. It's their version of fast travel with a cost. But again, you can also just do it manually, and if you so choose, hold down the button and travel and hope you don't crash into anything on the way. Well, very early on with Starfield, people were curious because when you're in space, you have the planet right in front of you. And people are curious if it is possible to just crank the acceleration and just go and eventually reach the planet. And seemingly, it is not possible until Alana Pierce proved us all wrong. But
really,
but only to a certain extent. So, Alana Pierce, who's a journalist, she used to write for IGN. She then went to Rooster Teeth. Now she is with Sony Santa Monica, and she is now a game developer and worked on God of War Ragnarok, which came out last year, I believe. But she still has her YouTube channel. She still Twitch streams. So she, having early access to Starfield, wanted to see if it was possible to travel from anywhere in space to your destination without just fast traveling, as everyone does. And she decided to go to Pluto because it seems like it was the easiest choice in terms of the game's orbit system. Because it turns out Bethesda actually developed full-blown orbits for all of the star systems, all the solar systems. So that it takes into effect your ability to travel, and it takes into account, I should say, your traveling ability. And so she determined Pluto, arguably not a planet, but still, nevertheless, a destination, at least a moon that she can land on. And
that's no moon, that's a space station.
And it seems like the orbit was the easiest one to traverse. So she tried to do it. She fell asleep. Or her controller fell asleep because she left it unattended. So what she ended up doing is overnight, she woke up once an hour for, I believe, a total of a 7-hour duration to make sure her controller didn't fall asleep, that she was still on course. And she eventually made it to Pluto, only to find out that no landing sequence initiates. She actually flew right through the planet, and there was nothing.
She flew through it. She didn't crash into it.
She didn't crash into it. She just she approached it, and then she just went right through it like it was a cloud, and there was just space on the other side.
That's disappointing.
So
why did that happen, Jack?
Because according to Kotaku, she, quote, unequivocally proved that the game isn't using skyboxes. The solar systems depicted in the enormous space map are for real, and like the real thing, mostly made of terrifyingly vast stretches of absolutely nothing. And then the article then goes on, mentions the textures of the planet are heavily blurred, suggesting Bethesda had not intended anyone to actually travel to planets manually. It says
they should know better because people that play these games are fucking nuts.
Rather confirming that on actually reaching the non-planet, I like that they're calling it the non-planet. Pierce flew straight through the skin of Pluto's surface, on some level going inside it, whereupon the trans-Neptunian object became invisible, showing the rest of space around her ship. So,
and from what I understand, Pluto is not a gas giant.
No, it is.
It's very much solid.
Yep, of ice and rock.
He's a lovable.
So she should not have been able to fly through it.
He's a lovable dog, but it doesn't make any sense because he's Goofy's dog, and Goofy is also a dog.
Why does he have a dog?
I don't get it. It's just it's just one of those things we just don't talk about.
Sick and twisted.
It's one of those things you start
It's a
talking.
social commentary on slavery, sir.
You start talking about it, and then a group of men all dressed in black chloroform you and throw you into a van, and you're never seen nor heard from again.
You're asking too many questions, sir. I'm going to need you to come with us.
They used the thing from Men in Black, the little pen thing that
Yeah,
just
look into
wipes
this
your memory.
thing. Look into my pen.